Okay, today's video we're going to talk about how you could take your banner ads or any display advertising you have. Banner ads in particular are a big part of that, and what I'm talking about on today's video and the strategy thereof to make banner ads make more money. You can basically double the ROI of your banner ad campaigns with very simple actions. Respectively, on top of that, video ads. If you want to add video ads in there and you're doing video ads right here, right now, I got a strategy right here that will double the ROI of those video ads in a majority of the occasions, just simply by tweaking the exact kind of look and feel of the video and with the same content of the video as is, the banner ad taking essentially the same kind of, for the same offer, all that stuff. You're just changing the look and feel of your banner ad to a specific type of look and feel that I'm going to talk about on today's video about. And you can also double the ROI from your campaigns. I'm going to give you actual examples of where I've done this in the past, different markets, different situations, so you can see how this will apply to your business. And I will go through, of course, the strategy step by step here as well. What to do, why it works, and all of that good stuff, so you can walk away from this video with an actual turnkey way to be able to double the ROI of your banner ad, or of course your video ads. If you are at a respective ROI that you want, you can make twice as much money from the ads, because this also respectively gets the click-through rate up. If you double the click-through rate on your ads, which this is primarily about, you double the ROI on your ads. It goes for banner ads, it goes for video ads. If you didn't know that, nope, now you do. People primarily know this about Facebook ads, but they don't know it about banner ads or other display advertising on the web. I don't care where you're doing display advertising, which display advertising, if you don't, just to be clear here, it's everything besides search engine advertising. You have an ad online somewhere, it's display advertising. They may be charging you per click, but it all comes down to you're paying for each time the ad's shown or per impression, because if you don't get a high click-through rate, you're paying more per click. They essentially want to get the same amount of money out of everybody. You get a crappy click-through rate, it doesn't pay off, but they don't want to. If you don't do a very good job with your ad and don't get very many clicks, they don't want to be penalized by that. They want to get a standard amount from each ad impression there, and therefore that's why click-through rates directly correlated or attached to cost per click. Okay, so want to get a high ROI on display advertising, you got to get a click-through rate approaching 1%, which is really good. For banner ads and for on Facebook, you want closer to 2 to 3% even. LinkedIn, same thing, and I won't get into the rest of the networks, but the strategy you use with your display advertising means everything about whether it's going to work or not work in terms of paying for your ads after all your expenses and so forth. If you're wondering why today, you guys that are subscribers to my regular subscribers to my channel, why I'm wearing this headset, my lapel mic disappeared, and I don't know where. I don't have the slightest clue where it's at. So, doing some shooting today. Ignore the fact that I have one. I'm not. This isn't a podcast here. So anyway, but I still wanted that audio quality to be there, because I know you guys like to hear the what I'm saying a little bit, just in general, more clear. That's very important. The content's important for you to understand it and be clear as possible. So anyway, with all that said, I'll get into it. So the main thing you are always trying to do to make your display ads do better, and just in terms of, like the creative, i.e. what you physically put on the banner ad and what you physically put on the video ad, and in order to get more out of it, more ROI through more click-through rate, like we talked about, more click-through rate means more ROI, is to have your ads get a paid attention to more. So keywords, paid attention to more. So respectively, if somebody doesn't give a crap about your ad because it's not relevant enough to them or doesn't stand out to them, you're going to take a hit on your ROI of your ads, because you're taking a hit on the potential click-through rate that you have on that ad where it's placed right now. It may be placed in front of somebody that's relevant enough to be profitable, but if you got to get that right, and you have to get the ad creative right. And it's not about just saying XYZ, I offer lollipops here, come get them, and it's a person who likes lollipops, how you offer the lollipops is what makes the difference most of the time, whether you're going to be profitable after all expenses or not. So in order to have your ad paid attention to more, and just to, in general, get more ROI out of a display ad online, there's three main things it comes down to in terms of changing that creative. Of course, I literally should say, I did write a book on the subject of display advertising. I have it on Amazon about there's a lot of things to know about it, and the only way you're going to know all of it, yes, you could read my book. You could start there. There's not a lot of good information about it in general. You just got to try a bunch of stuff. Once you've done for your business 100 different ads, I promise you'll pretty much be 10 times more where you're at, and the more you do it, the more you'll make. So just don't settle for what even if it starts making money. Try wild stuff. Try stuff that you don't think is going to work, and just see what happens. When you're making money and you're not investing back in your ads to do wild and crazy and wacky stuff, a lot of times you're just not going to get what you want out of it. And until you've been doing it for many, many, many years, you don't know enough about what you're doing to know what to test. So you just got to do that. But in order to be relevant enough to have people pay attention to your ad, to get a high response rate out of your ad, high click-through rate, you can have a better offer on your ad. When I say better offer, like I said, you sell it, going back to the lollipops thing. If you're selling lollipops, are you selling 2-for-1 lollipops? Are you selling lollipops where you can customize the flavor? Are you selling lollipops with free shipping? Whatever. So you can tweak that, and whatever you're offering, just in terms of how you're offering it there a little bit different way, that can make the world a difference all in itself. Of the main one of the three things here that I'm sharing with you here to get an ad to work, that right there, I've got videos just about PPC offers, and there's a ton of them I give examples of on this channel. If you don't know anything about that yet and you want to make your display ads work, check those videos out. You'll see on the case studies that I have there, you got anywhere from 10 to 300% increase in ROI just by tweaking that offer a little bit to make it more relevant to the user, so they pay attention to it. Because hey, if you think about it, just if you had to sell to a crowd of people out in the street, you're standing in front of a store, your storefront there, and you're trying to get people to buy. If you had a sign that said lollipops for sale, yeah, you're going to get a few people, but not nearly enough, as we have a brand new flavor machine that has all these different flavors, and we can make your own flavor. That's going to get 3 times as many people to say, I like lollipops, I'm not in the mood for one, but I got to check that out. Second thing is you could be more siloed. So talked about how you got to have targeting right. Obviously, you got to be targeting people who generally, out of your target, by the way, audience, at least 1% of that target market has to be strongly interested in buying what you sell in order to get most display ads to work. And so you're always trying to filter down the targeting until you get to that level of saturation, because it's the type of saturation you need to get enough response from your ad to be profitable. So a lot of times, if you're not, if it's not working, just start filtering down your targeting until you get there, and then you can do things to kind of build things back up. You got to start. Everything is about getting to profitability first, and then you could try all the crazy stuff to build things back up again. So with being more silo, what that's about is, if you sell more than one item in your store or offer more than one service, instead of targeting everybody, so in the lollipop example, if you sell just lollipops and you have a specialized lollipop store, don't say on your banner ad or on your video that we have great lollipops. Target people who have been just to the cotton candy lollipops page, and make sure your ad then can, if they've been to the cotton candy lollipops page, that you are speaking only cotton candy from then on to that person, if you're basically running remarketing ads. And respectively to that, if you're bringing in new people, you find people that were looking and interested in the competitors' cotton candy lollipops specifically, which can be done through finding out who your competitors are and of that regard, making a list of them and creating a custom audience of their domain names and their exact product names for those cotton candy lollipops. Create an audience there, and then have an ad that's just for cotton candy lollipops for that person. Obviously, that makes it more relevant. You'll get a higher click-through rate, more likely to work. Ton more work. Your competition's not going to be willing to do it, and it's up to you. Do you want to make this work, and how much do you want to make it work? This is a turnkey way to get more out of your ads. And you try to create you break that sub-segment, your list of people you're targeting down, so you can have more relevant offers on it that way. That'll get you another 100 to 500% increase in ROI by itself. But what this video is about is your users are likely, so what you're trying to do is stand out and be less likely to be ignored altogether to get your click-through rates up to get your ROI up on your display campaign. Okay? And when I mean that, or when I say that, is it's for a banner ad, it's obviously there's all kinds of people say banner ads don't work. Why are you wasting your money on that? Google sells, $100 billion a year worth of Google AdSense advertising, and if it didn't work, I mean, think about it. Is everybody who spends that $100 billion completely a freaking moron? No. The people who say that, there's a thing in advertising that you'll notice is everybody says that advertising doesn't work on them. I have hundreds of examples where I could show, yes, it does work specifically. People just don't want to admit that they are being manipulated and they're not making up their own minds. People very little make up their own minds. Most of propaganda, all kinds of different advertising, basically programs your mind to what you want, whether you believe it or not. So regardless of that, though, people try to, when they see a banner ad, they try to ignore it because they hate them. They don't want to be manipulated. They treat banner ads just like you would treat junk mail. You get junk mail in your mailbox. You stand over the garbage. You say junk, personal, junk, and then you try to read the personal. Well, with a banner ad, it's really easy for your mind to say that's an ad. Ignore it. And so for you to get a good response rate, you got to get an actual crack at them actually reading your ad, regardless of how good it is, no matter how good you did on these first two here, to make a good profit. So you could do that by changing the format of your ad to look more wild and crazy, or maybe more conservative. A lot of it has to do with what your market's doing, if they're in market for an electric skateboard. Look at the competition's ads potentially and just do something completely different than everybody else is a good way to do it. But in general, everybody out there does banner ads a certain way. Well, just, in advertising, yes, a lot of people are doing certain things a certain way. That's probably an indication that it works, but not necessarily. And even if that's the case, people get immune to it and they're going to block it out mentally, because when people are trying to save energy all the time, and they save energy by ignoring stuff that they can ignore. And if they see an ad, they instantly ignore it. If you do something different, it tricks the mind to have to really read what they're reading. And before they can ignore it, you've got them to understand what you're trying to do with them. And then if it's interesting enough, they'll read more. That's what you need to do for this third one here in order to get your ROI up. And there's an easy way to do that. You don't have to change the offer. Because maybe you have good offer anyway. You can't think of a way to improve it. You've siloed as far as you could silo in terms of sub-segmenting your ads and your audiences. You're going to fundamentally change the look and feel of your ad to get it noticed more and less discarded as advertising before you get your message across to the user. Out of these three, this is the cheapest. This last one's the cheapest and easiest to implement out of the two. There's a ton of work with especially with the segmenting, that if you just do this one thing, you can start here. You don't have to spend any more money and basically no time to test this out and see that it works. So I'll explain how to do this and what the first thing you should do as it comes to this to get your ad noticed more. Okay, so and respectively, you can double the click-through rate of your ads doing this. So the size of the change might not be quite as big as these first two, but it's the easiest to do. So therefore, I recommend starting out with the easy stuff. You can get into the hard stuff later on once you're making money. You could pay somebody else to help you execute on the harder stuff. So anyway, and it takes more time and you get money quicker. That as well. So out of when you do this testing though, I should have mentioned. So you're gonna change the look and feel of this ad to get it read more before it's discarded as advertising, and you're going to test the current ads that you have now, either a banner ad or video ad, side by side, split test, and see if your ad click-through rate goes up, which is pretty simple. When you do the testing, you should always start the process with the largest things first, or if you're going to do ad testing in general, it applies for any kind of strategy you're trying to apply with display ads and getting more click-through rate. Start with the easiest stuff, and also within the stuff that you do the stuff that's going to have the biggest potential impact first, because you're going to have to go and undo certain courses of testing that you're going to do. It makes most sense to do the stuff that's the most likely to get the biggest result first, get a win there, and then you could test smaller aspects of what basically won there. You get the general style of the ad down, then you can start testing the headlines and so forth. You start with the big overall the big changes at first, and then you start fine-tuning from there. That's going to get you the most out of the process with the least amount of actual iterations, because if you don't do that, you start with the small stuff, then you may have to test what happens, I shouldn't say but you have to go back and test the big stuff. What you did to test the small stuff, that won't apply anymore, because for instance, if you were testing the headlines, you figure out a headline that works. Now you're going to go test the overall look and feel of the ad. You find that something that works. You still got to go back and test the headline again, because the headline only works to whatever degree because of the placement and the flow within the actual overall look and feel of the ad. Okay, they call it the eye flow on the ad, how people read and where their eye is scanning on the ad. That stuff's important. Certain text will go with certain look and feel of the ads that you come up with, some won't. And so that's why I said you start with the overall look and feel, then you test the smaller stuff so that you don't have to go backwards and go through the process. So therefore, most results with the least amount of iterations of your testing that you have to do to come to the end result that you want to be running that gets maximum click-through rate on your ads. So if you got an ad that works already, banner ad, video ad, they get you a decent ROI. Lot of times, decreasing, not increasing, decreasing the production quality will more often than not, I should say, 2x the results / ROI on that ad that you're running, just for that one thing alone. And so what I mean by that, there's a lot of things that could be actually applied or be related to this, but what you do is you take your video or banner ad and you actually make it, instead of making it look so slick, you make it look more amateur. As counterproductive as that seems, that actually gets the ad to not look like an ad so much anymore. Gary Halbert, the most famous copywriter basically ever, that wrote sales copy for different companies and for companies that he ran, where before they did internet, they did direct mail, sending letters out in the mail and so forth. He understood the whole thing with, when you're sorting your mail, like I told you, go to junk, you're quickly figuring out what's junk and then throwing it away. If you want to get into that person at the highest rate you can to get the most out of the cost of the stamps, you make your stuff look like it's personal, so that you kind of trick them in a way. They'll find out what you're about before they figure out that it should be junked, and then you have obviously more opportunities to sell at that point. So that's what this is about. You're making the ad look like not so much personal, which that can actually be an element, that you look like you're actually like, even though they know it's an ad. Hi, I'm a CEO. I'm delivering a message to you. You speak in the first person to them, not in the third person. That will make it seem more personalized and more likely to get it paid attention to. But what I'm talking about here is making the ad look like basically like crap. The banner ad, instead of using fancy graphics, you're using maybe just black text on a white background. For a video ad, that might mean having a talking head instead of what you've paid a video production company to make slick graphics and so forth that they typically want to do because that's interesting to them and that they can charge you a lot of money for. You could do it on your own and actually get better results. So what you do in the video ad situation there, you just take what works and you decrease the production quality and then you test it side by side with the slick looking one. And again, more often than not, you will find that it actually converts better. Why? Because it actually gets paid attention to at a much, much higher rate. And they don't ultimately care about the quality as nearly as much as you think. Now, if you're selling, investment plans, yes, you can't get away with a lot there. But most of the time, in most markets, and don't think that your customers or potential clients are as snooty as you think they are. And for whatever they are, you always got to weigh, cost benefit, do a cost benefit analysis on everything. And by looking slick and quote unquote professional, the rate in which people ignore you is so much higher than what few people that do care about that kind of stuff of being or snooty outweighs itself, as what I found here. So if you have a video ad, that means instead of doing a stereo or where you have audio in both the left and right channels, do one where it's just the left channel or just the right channel. Right channel seems to work better than the left channel, so that the ad, when it plays, it only plays from one speaker. That seems like something a doofus would do, right? Ultimately, so when you're listening to it, it sounds like somebody, like a regular, like a YouTuber's ad as an amateur. And you're trained when you're on YouTube. What do you do? What kind of content you're looking for there? You're looking for not commercial content. If you're looking for quality information that seems non-biased, you're not trying to be sold to. So if you look more like the individual person that's just giving friendly advice, they have no agenda to sell anything to you, they don't have a business, that there's elements of them that makes them think right away that that's what they're getting, even though it might not be that way, but enough at least so that you're 5 or 10 seconds into the video, once you get them 10 seconds in and they haven't realized it is a sales pitch, then they'll probably listen to the whole thing at that point, because in that 10 seconds, you can pique their interest more. You see, you got to get your foot in the door to really get started and get your message across. So if you start out right away looking like a regular ad, then there's a certain percentage more that will ignore. So that's one way to decrease the production quality that I found works. So these three are my go-tos, but a lot of different ways is, this could be done a lot of different ways. This is just to get your wheels spinning. The other one, talking head versus fancy editing graphics. So if you sell like travel suitcases, travel gear, stuff like that, which I have in my list of examples here, don't have a video that looks like, yes, we'll just say amateurs will think that you want people to think you're a really, big, successful travel gear, suitcase, luggage company, and you have a lot of clients, you've been in business a long time. That's the way to go about doing it. So you look authoritative, and so if you're buying a suitcase, you're in market for a suitcase, in this case, and you're targeting them, that they'll want to go with you. Whereas, it's actually quite the opposite if you do this in the correct way, that is, where you have a talking head and you just speak as from the owner or a passionate employee why your particular suitcases are better. So you have to change the format completely, but you're also, the bigger thing is here, you're downgrading. Instead of a slick commercial, it's like what I have here. You could do where you're talking through the product. This product does this, that'll actually produce many times, a majority of the time, actually, more ROI than the slick looking video, because it gets more people to pay attention and less people to just say, oh, that's an ad, skip, before they even hear what you have to say. On the banner ad sign, instead of beautiful design made by a really talented graphics artist, who, by the way, a lot of times people get screwed because they hire graphics designers who are artists, but they don't understand about marketing, and so your ad looks really pretty, but it doesn't sell. And if it doesn't sell the user on clicking through or paying attention to it, is pointless, no matter how good it looks. So a lot of times you'd be better off taking what you have and put, just like I said before, a plain white ad with black text on it that has your message. It's going to get paid attention to. It's going to stand out. It's going to get noticed more, and you're going to end up with more money per dollar spent on the ads than you would with the nice slick looking ad. Why? Because all the ads look like they're slick looking ads, and it's really easy to spot in like 500 milliseconds. That's an ad. That's another company trying to sell me something. Ignore. Versus, what the heck? What is this? I've even seen people look like they made it, the graphics on it was made by a third grader. Those kind of things work well because it's different than everybody. And that's why the advertising industry is not going anywhere, because even if there's a way that works every time, people will start to ignore it once their mind has been trained to, when they see a certain pattern, to ignore, to save energy and calories so that they don't starve to death. It's been biologically programmed into us for millennia. They're going to start to ignore the strategy. It's going to stop. It's going to fall. The number's going to drop. It's not going to work. And then there'll be a new thing that stands out that gets people's attention more, and that's going to be the thing that works. So this is what you got to know about advertising. It's not about what seems good. You don't always just rely on everybody else. Whoever is the most creative to get the user's attention is going to really be the one that really does the best, and that's the way that it's always going to be. So anyway, I'll get into the stories here about where I've done this before, so you can know how to apply this to your business a little bit better. The first story that I have is about an art company. So this is a individual who that was very, very successful, popular, who had a whole line of art pieces that were very expensive, and they tried to run ads for this. It just really wasn't going to work. I suggested doing videos because I've done this before earlier. Instead of doing like trying to show your artwork and that you have this art studio and nobody cares, have a piece and walk through the piece, why it's relevant, why it's important, why it's interesting. You still have to target somebody who likes buying high-end artwork to have this work. But somebody who's an art aficionado, basically, when you start talking to them like you're just an everyday YouTuber, even though this is a video ad, you'll start to pay attention. And that information's interesting. And then that's at the end of the video, once you've earned some respect from the user, you could say, well, if you like this piece, I have lots of pieces like this. You could see them on my site. That drives the click. That's going to work better than, showing, we're an art studio, we sell all this art. Even though if it's the same person and they already should like high-end art already, you're not getting them to pay attention long enough to actually build some rapport with the user. So that's what we did there. And the same exact, so this is your go-to, if you want to go to start with for your video ad people out there. Just do a video just like that, like I said, demonstrating the product. If it's a service, you could simply talk about, you don't sell the service outright. If it's like an IT security product, you start talking about how, if you're running business, how people actually get into your system to do ransomware, kind of how it works, how people are actually defending themselves the best they can, how they get basically screwed over. And then at the end of the video, you pitch actually reading another white paper or whatnot, because in that case there's a little bit more warming up that you have to do about how to actually quickly protect your business from ransomware, and what are your basic options, and that kind of thing. Get them to download the white paper, they read it, then you call them, and it's a sales funnel. So versus protect your business from spyware, nobody cares. So it could be done for about anything, basically. B2B, B2C, product, service, doesn't matter. Did the same thing, actually. I talked about the travel gear space. This works good if you have products that are all similar, or services that are all similar. Why? Because for the travel gear, they had a suitcase. They talked about the certain pockets or whatnot of that suitcase, what made it actually different. But also all their other suitcases had that same trait. So if you could find a trait that makes you different, you're looking for something that your USP, your unique value aspects of your product or service that makes it different. Talk to the user in the camera, just talking through the product or talking through the service, explaining. For products, you just explain why the product's really cool, and then at the end of the video, you say all of our products actually have this. And if you like this feature and you want to get a suitcase, you can look through our different designs. You already know that all of the suitcases that we have, you're looking for a pretty suitcase that matches your style, also have this feature. So if you like this feature, there's 50 of them to choose from, and then that's what we did there. So, and it was just a individual person at the sales rep at the company who did this. So you just talk, and instead of reviewing all the suitcases, though, you review one suitcase that has the feature that makes the whole line unique, and you just talk about, and you just start. You don't even announce at the beginning of the video, this is, hi, I'm Joe Schmo. You just go right into, hey, this suitcase is really like as if like the first part is cut off completely. These suitcases are awesome. It just sounds like I said, you're trying to seem as much as possible like a Joe Schmo person reviewing a new suitcase they bought that they really like, and they're just showing off. This product does this, da, 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 da. If you like products like this, you can actually we sell 50 different products with this feature on it. That's what they did. That's what you can do, respectively. So review, the advice is review one service or one product, talk about things that make it unique, and which, if you can, which is the really bonus here, or icing on the cake here, that also all the other services or products you have that make it unique, so that if they like the product or service and it doesn't match what their exact needs are, they know that forevermore that you have, in general, when they're needing it, exactly what they're looking for. And then you can follow up with them with other remarketing ads until, every month you can then have a 10% off for, Valentine's Day only. And then, so that person now that knows if they're going to buy a suitcase, they're going to buy it from you, they're going to miss out if they don't buy it right, this week, because if I don't buy it this week, I'm not going to get 10% off. You have that follow-up sequence. It all works together very well. And so you should think about a lot of times when you run display advertising is, now how do I sell this exact thing right now? Because a lot of times if they're reading an article, they're on YouTube, they're not going to be in the mood to stop what they're doing, which they're just trying to relax a lot of times. Sometimes they're doing research, right? But in general, with the audience targeting, it's not about targeting on top of the video. It's a lot about we knowing them that they're interested in a suitcase and have been in the last 30 days. And so the video just magically shows up there, or it just shows up on Facebook or whatnot, that they're like, yeah, that company's cool. When I buy it, I'm buying from them. The sale isn't done. You just earn their respect. Then you got to do some other follow-up, which can be done with other ads, really and very easily, to also show like testimonials, reviews of your company. So like you continue bridging the gap that if they aren't all the way there yet with your company, that they think you're the best. You have the best reviews, you have the best price, whatever. And so there's like no possible way that they're going to buy from somebody else if they're going to buy. And then at that point, if your audience, it's all about just getting the audience, like I said, if there's a high enough percentage of people that are going to buy a suitcase anyway, and you've actually went through that process with them, you're going to make money. So get them interested in one product and review. Get them interested in one product by doing a product review, essentially, video, to get them essentially interested in all the products once the video is done, like I said. So that's the formula for a video that I would recommend. A lot of different ways to make things low tech to get it noticed, but that's one of my favorite ways. As far as the banner ads, for you guys running those ads, respectively, so I talked about, I actually use, sometimes the clients won't let us do it because, they have these mental blocks that prevent them from making money sometimes. But regular black ad with white background on a banner ad with black text, because it stands out for the reasons I said, we use that for our own firm. That what you're trying to do is, instead of doing the fancy ad with fancy graphics that get ignored, try to think of what you do that's different and sum it up in 5 words or less that conveys all the value of what your product or service offers. So you could put that on an ad that's just text only with a plain background, that if they read it, they know right away why they would want to hire you or buy from you in general. And it'll get read at a very, very, very high rate because it looks so unusual, and because it only takes 2 seconds or 1 second or whatever to get the full pitch, if you will, that what you have. They're not going to get bored halfway through it. So you've gotten the highest penetration with your audience that way, just by doing something low tech. An example from the insurance space: person that sold like business liability insurance, a smaller broker. Not a micro company or anything, but respectively, if you want to buy liability insurance, there's a billion companies. It's hard to decide who you're going with. So when we were trying to find 5 words or less to describe why you want to buy from us, what you need to be doing here, or what I would suggest, saying LA liability insurance experts, takes the cake. So really, it doesn't even have to be about changing your service or product anyway, or if you don't even have a USP, think about how you could reframe it. If you're going to buy liability insurance, yeah, you could deal with anybody. There's a lot of national companies, but if I am in LA and I see somebody that's telling me that this is an LA liability insurance expert, now I know, hey, gives me a reason to respond now. And in general, if I'm going to deal with anybody, that I should deal with them. And because, again, like I said, it's so short and concise, if they see that ad, a lot of people won't be interested right then. So I would recommend showing you always show banner ads to people that are in your target audience, 10, 20, 30 times, so that sometimes they won't read it, but they'll read it. But in general, they'll read it at the highest rate. So you'll have to show it to the least amount of times to get the same kind of impact with the strategy I'm telling you about in general. But when they read it, they're like, huh, I do want liability insurance, and I think I would want to deal with somebody local. That makes sense. Bang, you got them. Then they click through, and there you go. So for our firm, we do this for our firm, and my 5 words or less, punch that we're packing into a single statement to get the user to instantly know the value, so they could, once we get their attention for a split second, just enough, they'll read just a little bit to wonder why that ad is like it is. It's so plain that they got the message, and they're not going to stop reading it before they got the whole message. Ours was, don't pay until sales increase. Well, everybody doesn't want to pay money until their sales increase. Now, there's obviously some details to that, not caveats, but just details. But respectively, you don't have to tell everybody about all the details. If they want more details, they can contact you, or they can go to a page which explains further in detail. You got to be, many, many times you're going to be better off being very concise in the ad without having to try to tell the whole story, figuring out how you could tell more in less text, because a lot of people, as they're reading an article, if you get their attention, you're lucky enough to get their attention on the banner ad just for a split second, you're better off saying something that they can, within half a second, know what why you're there. Once you've gotten that far, yes, then you can start talking to them. But if you try to do too much too quick, they'll be like, oh, I don't care, it's too much information on that. So even if you do get their attention, they won't read the rest of it because it's too overwhelming. It's the same reason why sales copy on landing pages, you'll do better if it's spaced out really well. You don't use paragraphs, you use like a line and a line, because when people are looking at anything to do with any kind of pitch, if it seems too daunting, there's too much information, they'll just say, oh, it's too much. But if you get them to read just one line, your goal is to get them to read one line and say, it's interesting enough, I'll read another line. Oh, that line was pretty interesting, I'll read another line. And the banner ads are the same way. So you have to do that in your banner ad. You have to say as little as possible to get the maximum across to them so that they're willing to at least click the ad. And then when you get them to the page, you got to keep it going. You got to say on the headline enough to where in that headline they'll at least read one more line, and then pretty soon they weren't intending on, if you told them they had to read a whole page, they wouldn't do it. Well, because you kind of played this game or did this dance with them. They read the whole page. Now they're ready to seriously, inquire or look into the actual product in depth, whatever there. So that's something we use, and where we can do it, we'll do it. And so first, go to, if my ads are not getting the ROI that we want yet on a banner ad that we're running somewhere on the web, try to just change the overall format and do something more low tech instead of high tech. And if you see my ads, you're wondering why, oh, they don't make very good ads. There's a reason for that. And if you see other people doing it, now you know the reason. You got really clever marketers out there who understand this stuff and how user psychology works, how you get people's attention and you keep it, so on and so forth. So anyway, that's the whole thing in a nutshell. Hope you enjoyed this video. I have a lot of other videos on this channel about other PPC money making strategies. If you want to learn how to make a lot of money with PPC, you should check them out. I have a blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how to build campaigns that are guaranteed to work every time, and which I use for our own clients here. If you like information along those kind of lines, we have it there for you. If you have any questions or comments about this strategy, anything you think I should have covered and didn't, leave me a comment down below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel within a day or two time. With all that said, I hope to see you in my next video that comes out in another day or two, and I hope you enjoyed. You make a lot of money from this one now that you've watched all the way through my video and got all the information to run a little bit better display campaigns or video ad campaigns for your business.